Hello, everyone, and welcome to Discourse, episode 13. We're talking about our favorite animated shows of 2021, I guess for the next couple of weeks as we now enter into a whole new year. Happy New Year, everybody. Hope you had a great New Year's Day and even things, and thank you for joining me. I really do appreciate that. I know some of us are hungover, some of us aren't feeling well, but I do appreciate you guys being here. Thank you, Deadpool. Thank you, Emily. Thank you, Austin. Thank you, Cassie. Thank you, Xavier. And thank you, Vanny. Appreciate you guys. But yes, for the month of January, I figure we're going to be talking about our favorites or our best ofs when it comes to movies and video games. And for today, I thought it'd be fun to talk about some of our favorite animated shows that have come out last year. And, looking back, I realized wow, there was a lot of great animated content. I mean, not just in film. I mean, my favorite movie probably this year is an animated movie, but the several shows that, hi, everyone. Just want to let you know that we had a brief audio hiccup right here, but I'm talking about Arcane. Enjoy the rest of the show. And we did a whole episode talking about Arcane on a previous Discourse, and I highly recommend checking that out because that was an awesome conversation. But this one came on a surprise for me because of the fact that I wasn't really experienced with League of Legends, which is what Arcane is based off of. I played like a couple matches, like at a LAN table session, like years ago at an RTX, like 2016, I think. And so outside of that, I was pretty unfamiliar with the game. But I knew that this new show had come out, everything was coming out, and people were talking about it, and they were excited for it. I don't think I even seen the trailers, and I was like, oh yeah, okay, that's fine. It's not my thing. But then everyone on my streams and my other my social media kept asking me, had I seen Arcane? I was like, all right, I'll do it. I'll sit down and watch. And the first episode, I was like, wow, this is something truly special. And, after about getting halfway through it, not to sound hyperbolic, but I'm like, this probably is the greatest video game adaptation of all time, where it works because, one, it pleases the fans, but it also is very welcoming to new audiences as well. And I was just blown away by it, just how beautiful the animation is, which is, it's very much taking from something like Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse or Mitchell's vs. the Machines, or even that Peanuts movie that came out a few years ago. Like that, it looks like it's like a combination between like almost like 2D and 3D, or they incorporate both and mix and match. I'm like, that's just so original and so pretty to look at. And I loved how the characters were written. I never felt overwhelmed while watching the show in terms of like the lore. It's like, wow, this is all coming at me at a very nice pace. I like everyone's motivation. It was just that truly special show, that truly special piece of media this year where I'm like, I don't think I have a criticism against it. Like nothing about it like bothered me. I was just so in love with it and so impressed with it. So for myself, it's definitely my favorite animated show of the year. And I guess after this, we can kind of go ahead and open up. Anyone has any thoughts on Arcane? But does anyone else want to speak on Arcane for a second? And if that was your number one, or if that was one of your favorite shows of the year?
I haven't finished watching it yet, but I have seen the first episode, and I have maybe played League of Legends once in my life. But I think to your point, just it got me so engaged so quickly. And again, just kind of go on top of everything you said, just the animation, the art style, the maturity of the story, like everything about it, it just oozes style and a lot of attention, a lot of love went into it. It's great considering the fact that the game, like how much it makes you want to play the game, but then it also, you kind of realize how toxic that environment is within League of Legends. But
apparently, yeah,
it's super nasty. But yeah, I absolutely blown away by it too. And I think the voice acting is just like a straight up 10 out of 10. I was like, I definitely want to finish watching it, but I'm very, very content with it so far.
Yeah, they have an incredible cast of people. It's led by Haley Steinfeld, who has had a hell of a year. Yeah. Obviously, being Kate Bishop and Hawkeye and voicing the main character of Vi in this series, and again, famously voicing Gwen Stacy or Spider-Gwen or Spider-Woman in the Into the Spider-Verse movies. So no, and she's great along with the rest of the cast. Does anyone else have any thoughts on Arcane or wanted to speak about it for a second? Cool. No, please, dude. Yeah,
you nailed it.
Indeed, your number one. Yeah, I guess we covered it, but yeah, no, that makes me excited because I'm like, okay, I'm thinking everyone picked Arcane, but I guess some people did not pick Arcane, so that makes me excited.
Well, by the way, it's on my list.
Oh, it's on your list. Oh, that's cool. No, no,
came
no.
with my number one, but I have backups.
Cool. No,
Yeah.
no. Even if that is your number one, feel free to add to it once we get to you. I want to hear your thoughts as well. I did want to take a moment to also welcome Stefan, Duck and Henry. Good to see you, sir. Happy New Year's Day to you.
Hello, Happy New Year's. Thank you for having me.
Of course, always a pleasure. Always a pleasure. But now we can go ahead and we can move it on past the baton, the animated baton, if you will. And I'll go ahead. I'll start with Vanny. We'll start from the bottom. We'll go up.
Right.
Vanny, what was your favorite animated show of 2021?
That would be Castlevania Season 4. Absolutely loved it. For me, that is my best video game adaptation because every season just got progressively better. We got such a great intro with the first one. I still feel season 1 should have been an animated film versus 4 episodes just to kind of keep it flowing better. But season 2 just kind of like expanded on the lore and introduced new characters. Season 3 somehow topped that with even higher stakes. And then season 4 just stuck the landing so well, while still introducing some concepts that could lead off into the eventual spin-off sequel. I love the animation. I love the Belmonts, Cypher, Alucard getting a really well-deserved ending.
Yeah.
And just kind of a quick turnaround. I usually get nervous when I hear Malcolm McDowell's voice because he's such a hit. I think he's a solid actor, but he just chooses some very bizarre roles sometimes. Sometimes he is in these great films and TV shows, and other times he's in something that looks like should be like on a Skinamax film, like super inconsistent choices. And when I heard his voice initially, I was like, "Uh-oh, what's going on?" Like it's usually like my spidey sense goes off, but he was fantastic. And his big reveal for his character was so much fun, and he played Death in such a fun way. Like I just had a blast with it, beginning to end, and it choked me up a little bit too with the end, just to see like the Belmonts get some much needed rest, and then just building the next generation. And I'm very curious to see what they do with the franchise now going forward. But yeah, it was like I was glued to my seat for the entire for a full day watching that series.
I'm right there with you. It's funny, when I was going over the animated shows that come out in 2021, I'd forgotten Castlevania Season 4 was this year. I was like, oh my God. And I love Castlevania. Like you, Vanny. I love Castlevania. And for a long time, that was my favorite video game adaptation. I mean, it's still great, still amazing, still incredible. So the fact you have it at your number one, I totally understand. I totally get it. Yeah. But I didn't want to just say, I completely agree with you with Malcolm McDowell. It's like, you can go either way with him. You just never know. But thankfully, he was so good as this kind of salty version of Death. Is this like, I've been here for thousands of years with you fuckers, or whatever his line is. I just loved how he didn't care. He was like, he didn't have that kind of pretty flowery language. No, he's like, who the fuck are you? Who are you? I just want to eat something. Leave me alone. So he was great. I'm sorry, go ahead.
I think that's been one of the best things about the show is that it's subverted expectations with the villains with every season. Like starting even with Dracula, of just being so incredibly likable and sympathetic in the first 2 seasons. And then seeing Death in season 4 was so much fun to watch these characters just chew scenery and just be so over the top. And you can tell like all the voice actors were having a blast with it. And still be able to balance having a sense of humor with some genuinely dark moments. I know it wasn't this season, but Isaac's conversation in season 3 with one of his, I forget what they refer to, like his wraiths, talking about the impact of religion in society objectively, it's a very slow moment, but it had so much impact of just seeing just like the ramifications of just theology on society, and seeing more that seeing those kind of moments throughout season 4 was just super, super interesting. And then to see Isaac actually get a redemption arc, and a very well earned and natural one too, was just it was chef's kiss. It was absolutely just it was wonderful.
I always appreciate
such
the
great
show.
writing on that show. Sorry.
No, keep going, Duck and Henry.
No, there's just such great writing on that show. Just to add on to what Vanny was saying, like so many of the dialogue and monologues in so many other pieces of media would have just been long and boring, and you'd feel like you're slogging through it. But Castlevania handles it so well. Just these people talking to each other where nothing's going on, but you're just wrapped in it.
Right.
I was just gonna basically say the same thing that both of you have said, is that I like that the show took the time because it's beautiful. It's beautifully animated. The action scenes, especially in season 4, were incredible. Whether it was Isaac versus Carmilla, or like her lieutenants fighting on the battlefield, or obviously the one with between Trevor and Death at the very end. It's like, oh, it's gorgeous. But I like that the show still took its time to. We're just going to talk. We're going to have these conversations. These aren't going to just be one-dimensional characters. Even the people that seem to be supporting or tertiary, they're going to have their moments. And so I like that the show did that. And I think that's what's going to happen and spin off into, because we know there's a Castlevania spin-off in the works. I guess it's going to be focusing on the child of Sypha and Trevor. The next, I think, I forget. I'm trying to remember which.
I think it's Richter next.
Richter, that's it. Thank you. It is Richter. So, and I'm excited for that. I'm very interested to see how this continues on, and what surprise they have in store for us with Castlevania. Anyone else have any thoughts?
It's Simon Belmont, actually.
Oh, is it Simon? Oh,
yeah.
Shit. Okay, well, there you go. Makes sense. Yeah, and he was because for people that don't know, this Castlevania series, these 4 seasons are very loosely based on Castlevania 3 Dracula's Curse, because that focuses on Trevor. It's a prequel to the first 2 Castlevania games, and obviously incorporating a lot of Castlevania Symphony of the Night aesthetically, because everyone loves that. It's a lot of people's favorite Castlevania. So it looks like they're going to possibly do adaptations of 1 and 2. So that just makes me so excited. Did anyone else have any thoughts on Castlevania? Something they wanted to mention as well? Okay, cool.
I do have as one final thought. I do want to give the show credit for not having an entire season take place inside the titular Castlevania. It's not like one season of just mindless action scenes. Like it would have been very easy to do that. Like to have one season just be almost like Symphony of the Night, but they didn't do any of that. They just I think they respected the audience a lot, and they didn't do what I've seen in other TV shows too, particularly live action, where there may be a major story moment as a season finale, and then the next season, they realize they may have written themselves into a hole and had to dig it out or just solve it pretty quickly. They didn't do that. Whatever happens in the previous season has long-term ramifications. So you can binge the whole show, all 4 seasons back to back, and it just flows so well.
Agreed.
Yeah.
Xavier, did you want to say something?
Oh, I was just going to mention that I think I haven't been able to finish the show. I think I'm on season 3, but the show is beautifully animated, and the fight scenes and the choreography is outstanding. So that's one thing I really like about it.
Yeah, it's Powerhouse Animation, Austin's own Powerhouse Animation, which to see them grow. For those that don't know, before they had all this success with Castlevania and Blood of Zeus, and I know they've done He-Man recently, and they have several other projects in the works. They're doing a King Kong animated series that's based in the MonsterVerse, I guess, which takes place between the original Skull Island, which with Samuel Jackson, John Goodman, and the Godzilla vs. Kong. It's going to be covering the 90s, basically, what was going on Skull Island, and following this new group of people, encountering new monsters, encountering Kong. So that's one of the projects they're working on. But before that, you see that opening intro for the DT shows, they made that. That's them. they did that. So humble beginnings. Awesome. Very humble beginnings, which I think is really cool. And it's I think Corey's talked about on the stream when we've done when we covered Powerhouse Animation's projects, and he said, "Oh yeah, now they're so expensive," because they still do other requests for people. If you contract them, they do other stuff, smaller things on the side, but their prices have gone up because their clout has increased of all of their recent and very successful animated projects.
But no.
Are they still doing Devil May Cry? Are they still doing Devil May Cry? Did that get? Or is that just not them?
No. I think that's happening. I think Adi Shankar, who is also the producer of Castlevania, he's also involved in that. I think that's still happening.
I think so.
I know. I don't know if there's a set release date.
No. He still wants to do his whole bootleg universe stuff, but he's been kind of quiet on social media for a little while too. Because I follow him on Instagram, and I think the last thing he said was that he took some personal time off and he's ready to get back to work. So we'll have to just wait and see if there's still going to be a DMC show and if it will connect to Castlevania somehow.
That's right.
Yeah, I don't understand what he's referring to when he says the bootleg universe, unless he is just gonna mash everything together like toys and see what happens. But
maybe he just wants to be able to name his universe bootleg, because I mean that's what his content is. Like Adi Shankar, he's known for creating these kind of like darker takes on properties, fan videos. Like he did famously Dirty Laundry, which brought back Thomas Jane's Punisher. He did a Venom short film. He did a really cool Power Ranger one, like an R-rated Power Ranger movie.
That was great.
That was a great one. I think he's done like a James Bond thing, maybe, or a conceptual James Bond. He's worked on several things, and he's interesting voice. He's produced other big movies too. Movies I really love. I think are underrated, like Dread 2012, which was excellent, which I wish more people would check out. But I'm always interested to see, even if I don't like everything he's done. I'm not a big fan. Like the Venom, not even because I hate Venom. I just don't think this is pretty cheap looking. But he has an interesting voice when it comes to this type of content. So it's always fun seeing what he has. But moving on, unless anyone else has anything else to say in regards to Castlevania, but it is a fantastic show.
Yep, so many Easter eggs.
So many Easter eggs. Yeah, and they do it in the right way, where it's not like, see this? It's like it might be in the background. It's just like a lot of aesthetic Easter eggs, or it's like a part of a person's ability set. Like I love how we see, Alucard when he does his dash, it's in the same way as from Symphony of the Night. And I was like, that's pretty cool. But they don't call attention to it. It's just like, of course, that's what he does. That was really neat.
And his shield in season 4.
That's right. Yeah, no, he definitely has the same clothing and the shield from that Symphony of the Night too. So the black and gold, which is just like the cover. Even if you never played the game, you look at the cover, it's like, oh, that's what that's referencing, which is pretty cool. But Xavier, what about yourself? Your favorite animated show that came out in 2021?
So my choice, it's kind of tricky. So my choice started in 2020. It started in December, and
that's fine.
But it ended up finishing in 2021, and I think because of the journey that I went on with this show, that's why I'm like, I kind of want to choose this. So, but the show is Attack on Titan season 4, part 1, and and the reason I say the journey is because just like Avatar: The Last Airbender, it took me forever to like watch this show. Like everyone was telling me, I think I saw a video at the end of season 3 saying, everyone should watch Attack on Titan. Like, season 2, that was dull or whatever, but now everyone should actually watch it. And I was like, okay, fine, I'll give it a shot. But I kept falling off. I would watch season 1, and then 2, I kind of get like off and on with it. And then season 3 was like the stopping point where I was like, okay, I can't watch this anymore. But I eventually stuck with it and kept watching it. And it's just, I think the reason I like it so much is that it's just like I feel like a more mature type of like how you talk about how Cowboy Bebop is like a gateway anime. That's how I feel about Attack on Titan. I feel like this is a gateway anime. Like, yes, it has like those anime moments where, like in the season 1, where you got the guy screaming in the woman's face, and you got these like Titans who look ridiculous. But if you stick with it, it's like this show brings up so many themes when it comes to like racism, patriotism. I'm trying to think what else, but they bring up a lot of themes throughout the show. And season 4 is just like, I think, one of their best seasons because when the show starts, they do Last of Us Part 2 type moment where where it kind of like confuses the audience, where it's like, oh man, I'm gonna watch it, and it's like, oh shit, wait, what are we doing right now? And it takes a couple episodes for you're following these characters that you're like, I don't know how I feel about this, and it questions you as an audience, where it's like, who are the good guys, who are the bad guys, and then eventually, I think at the end of the season, you kind of just realize, I don't know, everyone has their own different motivations. Everyone's kind of gray here, and it's like you can't really pick a side. And even well, I don't want to spoil it, but yeah, the season's just fantastic. And if you watch from season 1 to now, it's like characters are like completely, or the way season 1 was set up, it's completely different in season 4, where it's like, wow, this now I can see like the Game of Thrones references, because like it's season 1, people were just like, okay, it's like Game of Thrones because anyone could die, whereas by the time you get to season 4, it's like, no, we're dealing with like politics, we're dealing with like real like issues, and people can debate that. Like, is this person right in what they're doing? Are they wrong in what they're doing? Can you root for these people who are like the scummiest people on the earth? It brings up a lot of questions, and I enjoy it every time I watch it. And I can't wait till I think part 2 comes out either this month or it comes out sometime in 2022. But I can't wait.
My Attack on Titan experience has been definitely weird. I really liked the first season. I remember I guess I watched that when it came to Netflix, when it wasn't even the dub version, it was the sub version. And I remember really liking it. I mean, it definitely has those very exaggerated anime moments. The guy screaming at that woman, which really made me laugh. But it was still great. I still really liked it. And yeah, season 2 is when I fell off. I think a lot of people fell off. But I have always heard great things about season 3, and then everyone's been raving about season 4. So you're not the first person, nor will you be the last person tell me to get back on the Attack on train. But that's cool to hear that the show. This is the last season, right?
Yes, this is the last season.
Yes,
the manga has wrapped up, but I
Right.
haven't, like, I've kept away from spoilers for the manga. I also wanted to mention one thing is that season four actually made me want a child to get killed or something bad to happen. And I felt bad because I was like,
kill that kid.
In his defense, that makes sense.
All right.
Thank you. Okay, I'm happy someone.
That kid must have fucked up.
Because I'm like, oh man, I want this kid to die, but I'm like,
Interesting.
I kind of understand it, but still, you're an asshole for doing that. So, but
Fair
yeah,
enough.
great season.
That's a nice pitch. It'll make you want children to die. I love that. That's good.
Level.
Nice.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Well,
I did have a I don't know if we're gonna do another podcast on this but I had like a worst animation, but I'll let everyone go first before.
You know what? At the end, if people want to say if they have any like additional animated shows they want to bring up, or they had a worse animated show, we'll see at the end. I'll let everyone have their last big say. But I just want to ask it. I mean, did anyone else been watching Attack on Titan or this most recent, this last season, I suppose?
Yeah, I've been getting into it. This season was so good that it made me rewatch the entire show.
Wow. Okay.
Because the world building, I'd have to say, is one of the best things about the show. You could say a lot of good things like the sound design or the animation and everything, but when it comes down to it, I think that a lot of fans are going to agree with this show that the world building is definitely the best aspect, because how everything just kind of like starts off so small and then it blossoms into this entire world that you see, and you see, different types of people, not just characters, but different races and stuff. It truly is like, you could tell that they set it up from the beginning.
Right.
And that's always something that I'll appreciate, because it's like you actually had a solid frame of work for this and you knew what you were doing right from the jump.
That's good to hear. So like no time was wasted then on those previous seasons. That's nice. And they reward you. That's the best kind. Yeah, no, I've been hearing across the board that the last season of Attack on Titan is great, and then I should check it out. I just fell off. I got to still watch season 3. I think maybe I finished season 2. But I have to watch season 3, and then I'll get to 4, I guess, part 1, part 2 someday.
I can tell you that it would satisfy all your bloodlust.
Nice. Well, I will. It wasn't the bloodlust that bothered me with the show. It was just I felt like the series, at least in season 2, it felt like a lot of setup. Like it was almost spinning its wheels, after the first big reveal. That season 1 reveal with the female Titan and everything. I was like, oh, this is really cool. But no, to hear that it definitely respects that the 4th season respects the audience's time, rewards longtime viewers. Like that's great to hear. I'm happy. I will definitely one day, I don't know when, but one day I will definitely go back and I will watch all of it. Probably have to rewatch in the beginning since I haven't seen it in so many years. But thank you both. Thank you, MZ and Duck and Henry, for sharing that. Kaz, about yourself, your favorite animated show for 2021.
Well, the one I want to talk about most kind of surprises me out of all the other things on my list. Like, I feel like this year has been a great year for South Park, both with the two specials on Paramount Plus and also the vaccination special that they did back in the spring. I thought was really well written, especially like compared to 2020's COVID special or the pandemic special. That's what it was. It was really, but I found it kind of underwhelming to the ones like, I don't know. It just, the specials that came out this year just feel like there was more time and care put into it. And I'm guessing there was. Like, they haven't been making actual episodes, and I feel like it's been helping them focus more on this stuff. Like, the plot's more well put together, the satire, I feel, is more on point. Like, I could nitpick, but I don't feel like it because I'm having a fun time, and I love all these characters. And the two post-COVID specials are really just, I feel like it's sort of a love letter to the series. Like, there are times when it pokes fun at itself, but it just, there are so many Easter eggs throughout. It makes me want to watch it again.
I had, you and several other people have asked me to definitely check out the post-COVID specials, which I've heard great things about. I have watched clips of them, and I'm like, this is some pretty funny stuff. Like, one of the things that made me really interested in checking it out was just Cartman, and how, like, the whole premise being, it's like, it's 40 years in the future, and so the boys are all in their late 40s or nearly 50 in some cases. And like the most successful out of all, and it's not a spoiler, this is like pretty much the first part of the part one, I guess. This is the first part of the first post-COVID special, where Cartman's the most successful. Like, he's happy and everyone else is miserable, Stan and Kyle. And I'm like, that is really interesting because Cartman, he is both intelligent but also very ignorant character, and he's despicable. He's hateful. And it's like, how can this guy be the happiest? And I'm like, that's interesting. That gets me wanting to watch it. And to hear you speak so positively about them, that makes me even more excited to check them out. And because I'm always been I'm South Park. It's like, sometimes I'm like, well, they've been around for 25 years now at this point, or nearly 25 years. And I was a OG South Park fan, used to watch them a lot, but then I kind of fell off after a while. Not because they, not because like of the subjects they covered. It's just that I felt like, in the originals, a lot of the original South Park content, they commented on things going on in pop culture or around the world or in government and things like that. But it was always kind of in the background, but it was still like, oh, I still get what you're saying. And it never interfered with like the main story, where now I feel like what they're critiquing is always at the forefront. And then the storytelling kind of takes a step back, but they do occasionally get me. And to hear that they clearly took the time to work on both of these, and it's not as underwhelming as the COVID special from the previous year, that makes me just all the more excited to see it. Has anyone else seen the South Park post-COVID specials?
I have. I kind of stopped around whatever the last season of South Park, so I kind of watched that season, and then I watched all the specials, and then I watched the two. And just that last season, I thought there was some really good. They do a really good Dune parody episode before the movie came, of like David Lynch's Dune, about basically the spice melange was who's the Patriots football guy? I don't know. It was his poop, basically.
Oh, I know you're talking about. Yeah.
Tom Brady. It's Tom Brady's poop, and everyone was basically doing the voice I'll say this because I watched part 2 and it's pretty. They go hard on two things, and I thought that was probably NFTs and Space Jam 2, and I'm like, thank you for saying these things, South Park.
Yes.
We didn't need Space Jam 2. We didn't need NFTs.
Yeah. Did anyone else? Was anyone else able to check out the South Park specials? Have any thoughts on them, or I guess recent South Park even?
I haven't watched South Park in at least 5 to 6 years, honestly. I'm kind of the same boat as you are, where I felt like at first it was a comedy first and having a message second. Very close second, but it was still there. And I felt like over the years it's flipped, where it's almost like it's preaching all the time now, which every once in a while go for it. And I think it kind of works sometimes when they want to deliver a very strong message to just kind of stop what they're doing and talk to you. But it felt more and more like that's what they're doing, or they're being so obvious with their storytelling now that's like it's stopped being funny. like I'm kind of curious to see the special 4 too. I like you. I'd heard about Cartman's success and he's happy. I think it also kind of makes sense too, and it kind of it's. I always did appreciate South Park can be very cynical, and
Yes.
sometimes the Cartman is a villain. He is an
he
absolute
is.
monster as a child. Sometimes the villains win. Sometimes a monster can be successful, have children, be married, and be absolutely happy. It just happens. So I can appreciate that that part at least can stay subtle.
Yeah, and I think based on what Casve has said and what I've seen is that they have that where they seem to have that balance, which is what I like with South Park, and it does make me excited for the special. Aren't they obligated to make like 40 or something for like Paramount Plus over the next
think
however
it's
many
like
years?
2 a year for the next 7 years or something like that.
Wow,
Jesus.
okay, that's a lot.
They
That's
also
a lot.
bought Casa Bonita.
Oh, that's right,
They
the
did.
real Casa Bonita. Yeah, well, they're like. Because I've heard about Trey Park and Matt Stone, like they're saying that they can sell the property for like billions of dollars at this point.
Probably.
Isn't that true? I think it was like tens of billions of dollars, and they can retire.
I
which
think
is
they're also
ridiculous.
working on another game because they're not used. They don't want to go with. I think they're just making like a 3D South Park game, but we don't. But it's not going to be
interesting.
with Ubisoft.
Oh, I know that they said that. They famously said like making a video game is hard, and I guess that last one like really broke them. So yeah, I'm excited though. I'm like it does like. Again, I've only seen clips of these animated specials. I want to check the rest. I want to see them in their full length. But it does make me curious to see what the future of South Park is like. If maybe this is the thing that they should do, they should just focus on maybe doing these specials instead of doing like a season now. Because we've had how many? At least 25 seasons? We're in the 20s now when it comes to South Park.
I think the next season would be 25, right?
25.
Yeah, I was a freshman in high school when South Park first came out. So
wow.
Yeah,
there you go. So I think it's I think it would be cool if they were to just concentrate on maybe doing several specials a year and not so much a season where they can really take the time to write something clever and funny. Then it's also biting. I would appreciate that, but no, thank you, Cass, for bringing up I was wondering if anyone, I was thinking it's like, oh, Chris Ayres, he would have brought up probably the COVID specials, but no, so cool that you brought that up. Thank you. Stefan, Duncan Henry, what about yourself? Your favorite animated show for 2021?
So it's tough because there are so many. I mean, this year was not only a great year for just TV shows and movies in general. It was a great year for animation, and it was a great year for anime. But just like staying completely US on this one, I'd have to say Invincible. I was expecting it to be good, but I was not expecting for my jaw to hit the floor as hard as it did in that first episode at the end.
Sure.
You see, because I went in cold. I had no idea of the comics.
Oh, nice.
Or yeah, and I had no idea what this was, and it comes off really, kind of basic. I didn't even watch that many trailers.
Mm-hmm.
And the more cold you go into it, I think the better the experience is. And it's a bloody, dark, like
yes,
animated show that also has a lot of heart. And I think that I'm finding that those are my favorite shows. Like a great example is Arcane. Like it is a dark story throughout, but it has genuine heart. You see people when they make decisions, they do it for sometimes selfish reasons, but they truly do think they're doing some good. There's not really many mustache twirling villains and complexity like Invincible has it and still keeps some sort of optimism. So I gotta give it to that show for this year.
It's definitely in probably my top 3 animated shows this year. I had read the comic beforehand. I remember reading the comic before like Ultimate Spider-Man came out, like Brian Michael Bendis' Ultimates, which kind of like really repopularized Spider-Man in the comics, and introduced him to a whole new, audience. And it was Robert Kirkman, who's probably best known for also, I think he did this before writing the Walking Dead. This is how old this book is.
Yeah.
I think it came out like in 2000 or 2001. And it's his love letter to Spider-Man and Superman. Where it follows this character of Mark Grayson. He is the son of the most powerful superhero in the world, and he's going through puberty. He's 16. He's getting his superpowers for the first time, and it's very wholesome. It starts out that way. He's like, "Oh, I like this. I really like it." It's both like a kind of tongue-in-cheek parody of both DC and Marvel comics. And I was like, oh, I see what you're doing, Robert. But then there's that twist, which happens very early on,
Yeah.
and we see it in the first episode, and it's like, oh, if you thought this show was going to be like, oh, this wholesome, story about someone growing up with superpowers, no. And it gets bloody and it gets violent, and there are some very shocking moments. And yeah, I think the show has done a great job of adapting the series. I may have a couple of issues of they cut some corners with the animation occasionally sometimes, but overall, I think it's still like you. I think it's a great show, and the voice acting I think is really good too. I mean, incredible voice cast. Everyone from Mark Hamill to J.K. Simmons. And then we also have Stephen Yeun, who's had such a great year, several years, obviously, really coming to fruition with, starting The Walking Dead and then, just going out there and being the main character, voicing the character of Mark. Such a great job. Does anyone else have any comments on Invincible? Has anyone else seen it?
I watched it, and then I watched parts of it with you. I think the fifth episode was, I think I just really like all the side characters and like even the small little bits and what they do. Because I knew a little bit about the twist, but I didn't know exactly, and I knew they would probably change stuff because it was an adaptation.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And I didn't know how bloody and brutal it was going to get. And just, I think you felt it is the thing in some episodes, especially in like the last and the one with the battle beast.
Oh yeah.
You felt it. You felt like you were just like, ugh.
The meat.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the thing that makes. I'm sorry. Go ahead, Stefan.
Oh no, I said just like your favorite word. That's the word I kept thinking of. The meat.
Yeah, it's it's like when you see that violence in the comics, it's already because clearly Kirkman likes that. He anytime he gets an artist, he's like, listen, I want you to get really bloody and visceral and gory. That's just his thing. Or what he wants to have play out in the panel. But I think it's made almost worse when it's animated and when you hear the sound effects. I mean, you hear the sound of wet meat, of bones and cartilage crunching and splintering. Like, it's not pleasant. It's not pleasant, but it sells it. It sells how brutal this world can be, despite initially seeming to be like really fun and everything. Something like from a it's following a young superhero trying to discover themselves. It's like, yeah, but that's superhero's going to get his ass kicked horrifically along the way. So no, excellent choice of Invincible. Any other thoughts on Invincible from anyone else?
Yeah, it's definitely a show that doesn't pull the punches, and I think in some cases goes out of its way to kick in literally the main character's face in.
Very much so.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, it's like, yeah, I mean, there's violence. I mean, he's a teenager, but there's a lot of violence against kids in this show, and I mean, in the comics. I mean, it gets you. All I'll say is like it gets even worse from here. You thought this was like it can't get much worse. It's like ho, just wait. So it's really cool for those of you who have not read the comic and you don't know what's coming, because I kind of do it. I remember. I think I have almost every issue, whether it just be single issues or just the graphic novel. So I pretty much know what's about to happen or going to happen, but they could change things. Did you want to say something else, Nick?
I was just gonna. It's good because I think Amazon really has a good subsection of like dark, gritty superhero stuff, like that in The Boys. And...
Definitely.
Very good point. No, it is. Yeah, they seem to have the control over that market. Both live action and animated. No, I'm very excited for Invincible. I mean, this show can go on for. I think they've greenlit it all the way through 3 seasons now, but there's enough material to probably do 8 or 10, really. So we'll see how far they can get with this. I want to see it, to come to the very end and maybe even change a few things. I wasn't the biggest fan of the ending to Invincible, so if they want to fix a few things, I think that'd be great. Even Robert Kirkman has said that he is course correcting certain things in the comics, stuff that's aged out. I mean, famously, like I will say, if you start reading the comic, there's going to be some dated stuff. Like everyone in that comic says, "That's so gay. Why are you being so gay?" And I'm like, oh God, yeah, that's so they've changed that, which I am thankful for. So, which I imagine they'll do that for some of the stories and character arcs as well. It'll be pretty cool. But Austin, what about yourself, good sir? Your favorite animated show of 2021?
So I was actually going through, and there was a lot of choices for me,
Yeah.
and I really wanted to pick a show that I don't think a lot of people here talked about, and a lot of people here
Please.
have seen, and it was Final Space season 3.
Oh, okay.
So give a little history. So this show was created by a guy named Olin Rogers. He was kind of like an internet guy. He got help from Conan, and it was going to be a big show. It was basically going to be like the start of a block for TBS for the first season.
Right.
And what happened was there was another show starring Louis C.K. Where he played a cop. And so that whole block basically got cut and posted everywhere else. But the good news it got put on Adult Swim for the second season. And the third season, because they had a merger this year, basically they kind of put it on a bad time slot and kind of let it die, and sort of didn't promote it as well as like Tuca and Birdie and Bird Girl, and a lot of people kind of saw the third season and didn't really enjoy it. And this season, I will say it's pretty dark. It's actually pretty funny. I'm like, oh yeah, Stephen Yeun is also in this show. It is a pretty crazy cast. It is Tom Kenny, David Tennant, Fred Armisen plays the worst character, whose name is Kevin, who is a robot. Basically, the plot of the show is about this guy named Gary Goodspeed. He finds this great, most powerful weapon in the universe, which he dubs Moonbeam, which is like this little green alien guy. And you sort of find out his situation, and then he kind of becomes this leader of a ragtag group of individuals with that's basically being chased by David Tennant, who's like this evil villain. Anyway, in the second season, they're trying to get into Final Space, and then the third season, now they actually are in Final Space, which is like this dimension full of these Cthulhu horrible monsters, like some basically some pure nightmare stuff. And yeah, I also forget Ashley Birch plays a really big character in it. Keith David, Mr. Peanuts himself, plays a giant Titan character. There's Conan even plays like a small character, big character. Alan Tudyk, like it has a lot of people, and this season is dark. There are deaths, and there's no coming back from it. There's real emotional fights between characters that are they're very human, even though it's like between sometimes aliens. And while there's very hints of comedy, it is just mainly dark and depressing through most of it. And it is also at the same time very beautiful. Like it is cosmic horror in some ways, and it is that, but it is also very beautiful, and it will make you feel good and then rip your heart out in the next part without getting. And it got canceled, which was really sad. There's supposed to be a game they're making that they said that will kind of, because it sort of ends on a cliffhanger of some sort, and I want a lot of people. I just want more people to check it out and give it another shot, because it's a really good show. And it was really hard, because I was like thinking back. I'm like, there was like seasons of a show. I'm like, what? Well, I'm like, well, I like the season. I'm like, I wanted to pick something that I knew wouldn't get an ending, and I wanted to give people a chance to check it out and give it a shot, because I know a lot of people, when they first watched it, they didn't really enjoy it. And it's a kind of a weird thing, because it was sort of a very serial show that had a very goofy tone at the beginning, but as kind of time went on and things kind of changed, and you learn about characters, especially this season, you really get into some backstories, and it changes everything about the show. Like you're like, I love this character, and you're like, maybe this person is a monster, like just a general, just the worst human on earth, but you still kind of love them. And
sure, they're complicated.
And it's hard to go in without saying spoilers, but it is really a really great love letter to like science fiction and space and various shows like that. But also it will get dark. If you're like, well, this show's pretty like light and fun, and it's like, no, just wait. Watch the third season. No, go ahead. Sorry, Chris.
No, I was just gonna know, just on top of what you're saying, I'd watched, I think when it originally was on, I think it was on YouTube or something. I think they had like maybe the first episode.
They had the pilot.
It was the pilot. I had watched that, and then I had I guess I'd watched it possibly on Adult Swim, or is it on HBO Max?
Yeah, I think it's all now on HBO Max.
Maybe that's how I originally watched some episodes. I remember liking it. I was just during that time when there's so much on. And you're right, where it at least that first season was pretty goofy. And I watched it sporadically. I watched it out of order. And then when I was watching stuff in season 2, I think when I had it play in the background, I remember it's like, all right, this is really dark now. this is like, wow, it's a black comedy. That's what it really is. It's a black sci-fi comedy. And I was like, wow. It's funny because I think I met one of the producers of the show. This is a tangent, but when we did the LA show, not the most recent one, but the one before that one, we ate at one of Corey's friends' houses, and I guess the wife of his friend was a producer on the show. I guess for at least at that point up to the second season. So I was like, oh, that was kind of cool. But yeah, it sucks because I had always heard people like really promoting this and saying like it's not gonna be for everyone. It does get pretty dark. There are some really just nasty personalities on it when there's more revealed about them, and I was like, oh yeah, so I could see how that could turn people off. But I think that there's always space for a show like that. And I was sad to hear that it did get canceled, even though I had not been watching it consistently. But did anyone else watch Final Space? Was any exposure to it?
I've heard of this show, but I've never seen it. So if I could just ask a question, Austinic,
Sure.
would you say that the like the way it appeals to you versus how dark it is, like it's similar to a Rick and Morty type of like vibe and how they do that?
I was gonna say it was kind of like what Vanny was saying about Castlevania, where it felt like, okay, the first 2 seasons were goofy with like dark elements that now they've sort of earned being dark because of what has happened in the show.
Okay. Okay.
If that makes sense. Like it wasn't like I won't say it's not mean spirited like Rick and Morty. It's like a lot more optimistic and a lot more hopeful. And
Okay.
but I think that's why it's a little more dark, because sometimes that just gets crushed.
Gotcha.
It's like they set all these characters up that you get to know them as people, and then it's like, okay, now we're gonna kill them, or something horrible is gonna happen to them, or someone's gonna betray them. It's like that.
Yeah.
No, I totally get it. I do want to, like, it's one of those other animated shows that I was just kind of watching sporadically, and eventually I dropped off. Not because I wasn't interested, it's just there's so much content. But I was sad to see that it didn't get another season, or at least had the time to wrap up. Maybe that video game will wrap it up. We'll still see. But no, thank you for bringing in a bit of a dark horse of a choice. I like that, Austin. Thank you. And Emily, what was your favorite animated show of 2021?
I didn't really watch a whole lot of animated shows this past year. 2021 was, geez, my phone's vibrating. Sorry about that.
No problem.
Anyway, threw me off there. Anyway, I didn't watch a whole lot of animated shows this past year, but the one that I did watch for sure was about everyone's favorite golden retriever Doug from Up on Disney Plus.
Oh, okay.
I had heard about it like maybe July that it was coming to Disney Plus. I was like, oh, okay, I kind of liked Up and whatnot. I know it's completely weird, it's wholesome and nice compared to the blood splattering of Invincible or Castlevania and whatnot. Nothing against those shows, but anyway, it's like a little mini series. It's sweet, it's earnest, it's sentimental. It's got Carl and Doug there. They're living together in their new home after he sold the blimp from Up and whatnot, and the episodes just consist of Doug getting into these adventures outside. Like the first episode, he goes up against his arch nemesis, the squirrel, and it's basically just a few minutes of him chasing the squirrel around the backyard, fucking everything up, even though Carl just told him not to fuck up the backyard. He does it anyway, and it's just very, very sweet and adorable. It was also bittersweet to watch at the time, because I found out that Ed Asner passed away 2 days prior. Also, fuck you, 2021. You took Betty White on the last fucking day, and her birthday was just less than 3 weeks away. It's like, it's a final fuck you.
Had to get one more person in there before.
Just had to get one more person in there, but it's just something sweet and wholesome to watch compared to other crazy shit that was going on this past year, and I really enjoyed it, and I thought it was very lovely.
I had seen the teaser for this because I know that Disney Plus, they have so many like animated spinoffs. They had that Monsters Inc. spinoff on there that I haven't seen, just clips of. But I saw the trailer for this. It looked adorable. I mean, Doug is definitely a fan favorite character from that original movie. movie.
Oh, it's so adorable.
You know,
Russell even pops up in, I think, one of the episodes.
Nice. I know that he has puppies now, or at least he's babysitting puppies, or possibly they are his puppies. So I mean, yeah, no, it looks like a super cute, wholesome show, and perfect for animal lovers and for kids and pretty much everyone. So no, it's one of those I definitely want to check out. Like they have, I'm just so used to like, oh, the big Disney Plus shows, like the next Star Wars or the next Marvel.
A little more quieter, and that wasn't so. Because I don't really watch a whole lot of the superhero shows.
No, I get that, but
this is the one thing I did watch.
And that's cool because they release a lot of they do release other content on their new stuff, and this is one of those things, along with the Monsters Inc. And I think there was a Frozone spinoff. I think that might be happening now with Samuel Jackson as a character from The Incredibles.
With his wife about hiding his super suit again, or something.
Probably. I mean, those shenanigans sound great. Maybe he's dealing with his family. So I like that. Disney
Oh
Plus.
my God,
Disney
yes, I need that.
That'd be great. I mean, they can do a movie honestly with them, his family. I think it'd be really interesting. But no, that's cool. No, again, I appreciate you brought something in that I totally forgot had come out this year, and mentioning Ed Asner, who was a titan in voice work in animated shows.
Tyler Moore show with Betty
That's
White.
Right. That's right. Mm-hmm. Yeah, and she also, she also animation as well. So no, thank you. Has anyone seen Doug Days?
No.
I was just curious. I mean, it's just like there's so many animated shows.
I don't want to describe everything that happens in the
sure.
Shows, but it's just cute and wholesome to watch. They're not long. They're maybe like, I think maybe not even 10 minutes a piece.
Nice. It's a mini series, right?
It's like a little mini series. It's like cool. it's like the length of like a Pixar short, kind of.
Oh, perfect. No, I want to check that out someday. That sounds adorable. But
really nice.
Yeah, exactly. But Deadpool. You, sir, you are the last one. What is your favorite animated show of 2021?
Well, my favorite was Arcane, but since we already discussed that, I'll go with my backup.
If you want to talk about Arcane for a bit, please feel free, though.
All right. Well, I think one of the reasons why Arcane's my favorite is just because I think it's been mentioned earlier. It has mature like writing, as in. I guess not because I'm dealing with mature substance, but more like it's not predictable.
Yeah.
It doesn't rely too much on tropes. I mean, the tropes are there, but it tries to give it doesn't feel like any characters are stereotypes.
Mm-hmm.
All of them are very nuanced, fully developed characters, which I think is missing in a lot of animation. A lot of animation seems to kind of really rely heavily on tropes and stereotypes of characters, like mustache twirling villains and goody two shoe heroes, stuff like that. And sometimes, I mean, it just kind of gets predictable. I mean, heck, even the Marvel movies themselves are guilty of it most of the time. So it was really refreshing seeing something that tried to do very nuanced characters with very complex writing the story itself is pretty straightforward, but there's a lot of interesting twists and turns that aren't predictable.
Fully agree with you. And what was your other animated show that you wanted to bring up? Other than Arcane, you said you had a backup. And then I'll let everyone else had any other anime shows you want to bring up. We'll go ahead and dive into those, but you can go ahead and get into that detail right now, Deadpool.
My other one, my backup, is Star Wars The Bad Batch, also known as Omega and her 4 dads.
4 space dads, yeah.
That's my backup too.
Good one.
And it's just like, I never really cared much for Clone Wars for the most part, like the anime show. Like, I really liked the 2D animated Clone Wars series. I was really into that. But when they did the 3D one, I wasn't crazy about the animation that much, and it always felt a little like a lot of the early seasons are very. They definitely are aiming for a younger audience.
Sure,
it becomes a little too goofy. Like General Grievous is almost like a slapstick villain most of the time.
Boy, he is. Is he ever? Agreed.
Even the Jar Jar episodes of that person. Why would they?
So I only watched a little bit of Clone Wars, but when I heard about Bad Batch, it sounded kind of interesting, so I gave it a shot, and it's really good. It can be kid friendly, but at the same time, it's like it doesn't get too goofy.
Mm-hmm.
Like the characters are treated somewhat seriously. Like the Batchers are really cool. Like, yeah, some of them are like I was saying about Arcane, some are kind of tropes a little bit, but
sure,
And with Star Wars, that it worked. Star Wars itself is based on the pulp adventure sci-fi. So when you have tropes there, it's not necessarily a bad thing. But it's cool to be able to kind of explore with between the Clone Wars and the Rise of the Empire. So it's cool to see that enter period that doesn't really get explored too much.
And it's immediately after the events of the Clone Wars too. Like it's like it's happening right when Revenge of the Sith is, like, the first episode is like right when Revenge of the Sith is happening, like the tail end stuff, and then like it's the days, it's the weeks, maybe the early months afterwards. I agree with you, man. I did watch parties for that all this year, and I am a fan of the Clone Wars animated series, but you're right. The first several seasons are definitely they're geared more towards kids, and it's when we started getting the latter seasons. I say by season 3 on. I mean, even season 2 we had some great stuff, but season 3 on is when, okay, we kind of know what we are now. We figured it out. We can tell these darker stories with these characters you've really come to know better. And I think that carried on over into the Bad Batch, who were originally introduced in the Clone Wars animated series in the last season. That was like a 4-episode arc, which was great. And them teaming up with General Anakin Skywalker and Obi-Wan Kenobi, and also dealing with another subplot from the series that was untouched for like years, and so that was cool to see. So yeah, much like you, I love the show. That, hey man, again, as a Star Wars geek, I was like, they brought back Cad Bane. He's alive still. Oh, thank God. So yeah, I mean, so many little references. I'm like, oh, good. They're starting to bring back these things that were kind of neglected or forgotten for so long. So it's been a great watch, and I'm very excited for season 2. I mean, I know some of you guys definitely watched the Bad Batch because I had these watch parties, unless you just completely just timed yourselves out and were like, I ain't gonna watch this. Did anyone else watch the Bad Batch?
I'm currently going through it right now, and yeah, I agree. Like they took what I thought was one of the least interesting parts of Star Wars, which has been the clones, and made them genuinely well-rounded characters with some good stories to it. And I'm having a blast watching it right now. Like, it's between that and Book of Boba Fett. Like, I'm kind of in the Star Wars mode now, and having a lot of fun with it.
Nice. I'm sorry. Go ahead, Austin.
I need to go back and finish it because I just didn't finish. I kind of got caught up just in the last couple of episodes. My one critique of it is opposite of Vanny. I always loved because I always thought the Clone Wars, the best episodes were just about the clones, like the Domino Squad episode. All those episodes were very just interesting, and it was kind of nice to see. Well, what was life on the Camino like? What is the life of a clone? Are they kind of free? Do they have free will? Are they like sentient? And my one just issue with the show is I don't like Rebels. I don't like how they're setting things. That was the one last episode I saw. I'm like, this just feels like they're trying to set up Rebels here, and I get why they're doing it, but I'm just like, I don't really care about that show as much.
Yeah, I see. I like Rebels, but yeah, I understand that because obviously they're connecting all of these together.
It's not like I think Rebels is bad.
That's a great thing that Star Wars does. It's a bad thing that Star Wars does.
It's not as it's bad. I found as a show called Rebels, they win a lot too much for being called Rebels.
I mean, Grand Admiral Thrawn messes them up, though. He messes them up.
That's the last season, though.
Well, in the third season, too, he just... Well, I don't want to get no Rebels debate.
It's a good show. There's good moments in it.
Yes,
I just felt like it tried to too much. It tried to be a little too much of a Disney show at points, and it felt like sometimes they had to be a little bit more kiddie than like Clone Wars could go.
No, there's some cute moments. There's some like, all right, this is for kids, and this is like, all right, here's a little cute. Like, here's a baby Rancor that everyone's riding around. His name is Moochie or whatever. It's like, oh yeah, there's some cute. I agree with you in that regard, totally. But I did really like it, and I mean that last several episodes, like when we get I never saw this before, and Star Wars like an underwater, where they're stuck underwater in a city that's slowly sinking. I was like, this is really cool. Like, all that was just so imaginative to me. And you're dealing with someone you don't know if you can trust at the same time. And where the threat is just, I mean, the threat could be anything. It can be the environment, or it could be this individual, and or the flora and fauna that exists under Camino. There was just a lot of cool, clever things I think they did throughout the season. Now, without its flaws, it does have a couple of flaws, but I'm a big Bad Batch fan. Did anyone else have anything to want to say about Bad Batch other than it could be negative or positive? That feel free to criticize. Nothing wrong with that.
I won't lie. At this point, I'm a little Star Wars out, just because they've been. Star Wars, I feel to me, has always been uh, had so much potential. You know, you set up this entire galaxy,
Sure.
and you set up all these worlds and these races and these forms of government, and you have your basic battle between good and evil, but it's only really in the shows where they explore the worlds and do the world building that have interested me, like The Mandalorian, some of the Clone Wars, which Star Wars has always had the issue where it's pandering to kids a little bit too much, where I think you see that in the Clone Wars and in many of the movies. So there's just so much to watch. I mean, I will check out the Bad Batch at some point, but I'd really need it to sell me high because my bar is raised with all these great shows out.
Sure. No, there's just so much content and animated
Yeah.
content. So I understand. Xavier, did you have something you wanted to say?
I was gonna say that I don't have I'm not too familiar with the Bad Batch. I watched I watched it when you had the watch parties, and
Right.
even though I didn't know what was going on, I still really enjoyed it. I enjoyed even the animation. Like I saw clips of Clone Wars, or like I've watched an episode of Clone Wars, but seeing it now or seeing the Bad Batch, I'm like, wow, it's like day and night between like what was happening
Oh,
at
sure.
that point.
Oh, definitely.
And but you know, I think because of your excitement and you know you and the chat and everyone has been talking about it, has made me want to go back and watch the Clone Wars and just every like things that are associated with that like prequel era besides the movies, like the TV shows, comics, whatever.
Nice. No, and you know, it's with the Clone Wars, it's interesting because it's weird. I mean, it has its flaws, especially in the earlier seasons. But I think as it continues on, I think season 3 on, it's like, all right, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7. Those seasons are pretty good. They really expand the world of Star Wars, and they even set things up. It's like, oh, that makes sense how that is in the original trilogy. It's like, oh, I get that. All right, nice. I see where all the seeds are planted. So that's very rewarding as a Star Wars fan. But I feel like, you know, they also the best thing that I think that show does is that it makes you understand the relationship between Obi-Wan and Anakin, which George Lucas never got that right in the movies. It was like, well, he was my brother and a good friend. It's like, well, no, he wasn't. We never saw that in this show. They show that. I'm like, oh, thank God. Now it makes sense. You have context. It sucks that a show has to build upon a movie that failed to showcase that, but you know, it does have it does provide answers and also sets up some really cool things and expands upon the lore and the world of stars, which I appreciate it. But but overall, so you want to say something, Benny?
Oh no, I just agree with that too. Like I'm as much as I genuinely do hate Rise of Skywalker, like I'm kind of curious to see if they will try to do something similar like what they did with the prequels, because between Clone Wars, Rebels, and now the Bad Batch, the prequels are more or less redeemed to me. Like I can now go back and watch those first prequel trilogy films and be like, they're not great, but I'm excited now to want to now watch the additional content to round out the stories quite a bit more. Like I'm currently reading right now The High Republic, but once I'm done with that, I want to read the Count Dooku novel to see his fall from grace. And yeah, I think it's I think to ducking Henry's point, I think I brought this up in one of my Twitch streams a while ago, that one of the nice things about Star Wars is that if there's a part of it that you don't like, there's another part that will make up for it. Like if you didn't like the prequel films,
sure, you
got the Bad Batch and you got Rebels and all that. If you didn't like the sequel trilogy, you're kind of fucked right now. But Rise of Skywalker, like I only have 3 films. Like if I was to use a DT scale, that would get a fuck you, and Rise of Skywalker is absolutely one of them. But I hate that film with an insane passion. Yeah, I think it does give merit to things, and it does add so much. And I think the one things with the clones in general has been, I always was kind of curious how they would give them any sort of real personality. And I think having like off-brand, or having like a batch of clones that are unique in every respect does fix that problem.
Yeah.
But to give them such all unique personalities too, and even where I think a couple of them, like I think like Echo and Tech kind of bleed a bit together.
Sure.
But they still have their moments too, which I really appreciate. And the fact that giving more of Omega's backstory, like a tie-in that makes sense, I think it's super interesting.
Well,
yeah.
To Vanny's point, the fate of Echo was up in the air for years because
it was.
They were going to do a final season, and that final season, well, what happened was Echo. There's a in the last season of Clone Wars, there's like this big Manchurian Candidate thing. Echo kind of seemingly dies off screen, and then Fives is basically what happens to him is sort of just a tragedy. And then in Bad Batch, we get to find out what happened to Echo, and so it's nice that we have a show with him, and he's a character who was basically in the start, like he was in the first season of Clone Wars, and you can follow along his story, which is just very tragic.
Yeah, I mean, he gets messed up. I mean, he literally is used as a science experiment by the separatists. I mean, he's different. He's like a cyborg now. So yeah, and that was very much like, we got to do this for the fans. We got to bring this character back because this mystery has been, we didn't know for years what happened to him. We had no idea because of the cancellation. So yeah, I right there with you, Austin. If anything, this conversation, it just makes me realize, okay, we got to do Star Wars conversations in the future. That's inevitably about the movies and the prequels and the other ancillary materials. So
I would love that.
We'll have that Rebels debate, Chris. I'll watch all the show.
I'll do it.
I really enjoy Rebels.
I enjoy it too. Brought my boy back. Brought Grand Moff Thrawn back, and I was like, yes. Yes.
Clone Wars did almost had a Revan though, so
it almost had Revan, and originally Filoni wanted to bring in Thrawn. He wanted to bring in Thrawn and I'm getting into the weeds here and the Chiss ascendancy. I got to move on. I'm gonna stop Star Wars talk. But I did want to take the time to let everyone get another chance to say, was there another animated show? And this is open to anyone, or if there's any additional thoughts what we talked about too. But did anyone else have any other animated shows that they wanted to bring up? Like I forgot this year was also the second season of Harley Quinn, which I really enjoyed. We had Star Wars Visions, which I thought was really cool. We had Marvel's What If, we had Blood Zeus, actually that was last year. But we had a lot of other content. Was there anything else that anyone wanted to bring up or just talk about?
I have one. Oh, sorry.
We'll go with Cass-Faye. We'll go with Cass-Faye first.
Well, I don't know if this is one we'll here have watched, but I'm a pretty big fan of Big Mouth, even though that show's not for everyone. And they released season, was it? Yeah, I think it was 2021. It was super recent. And although I saw some complaints on the internet that maybe it wasn't as good as the others, or maybe it kind of quote unquote sucked this year, I thought it was really great. I mean, maybe some of the other seasons were better, but that's just because the show has set such a high standard for itself and it gets really great reviews every time. So it's going to reach a point where some people are just going to nitpick and be like, well, I thought season 2 was better, etc. But like, I don't know, season 5, they introduced a lot of new characters. They're setting up for this spin-off that I think a lot of people are nervous about. But as far as I'm concerned, apart from a few little nitpicks, it's still one of my favorite seasons, one of my favorite shows that I've watched this year. And I'm excited. I'm cautiously optimistic, if you will. And I think as long as they don't focus too much on the spin-off characters moving forward and spend more time like they used to, I still think the show is solid. I still think it's going strong.
Nice. Did anyone else want to bring up another show?
I had this new season of Masters of the Universe.
Please do so.
Yeah. So I grew up with He-Man and the original toys. I even saw the Dolph Lundgren film when it first came out too, which so I was kind of curious to see it. My thoughts on Kevin Smith have waned over the years, where he's just gotten super weird, and the quality of his work I think has dipped tremendously. But I can at least see what he was doing with this one, and I can appreciate the overall tone of the film. Like, I know there was a lot of backlash because the first part of the show was a He-Man film without He-Man, and I never had a problem with it. I actually really like the fact they were giving the ancillary characters more time to breathe, and to give them their own like more character arcs. Because if it wasn't a straight He-Man show, it would have been what we got with part 2, which is you don't really need a full season then, because He-Man can just come in and punch his way through it and you're done. But I loved Mark Hamill's take on Skeletor 2, where he was just so insecure, but also really funny too. And you can tell Mark Hamill's having so much fun with it. I do think there's some flaws with it. I think a lot of Tila's arc is very just bizarre. Like she makes some decisions I don't think necessarily work for the character. I think for overall theming for it, but I think on the whole, like I think the animation was absolutely spectacular. I think some character changes were very much needed if they want to continue this as a series. And seeing He-Man just raise the sword and say, "I have the power," it gave me goosebumps. It reminded me back when I was a kid and seeing this stuff. So I think it was fine. I don't think it's definitely not my show of the year or my animated film or show of the year. But I still think I don't think it deserves the hate that it's been given, and I think it warrants some praise for a lot of what it's trying to do.
I want to go ahead and just add on to that, Vanny. I actually have watched all of the He-Man. I guess it's Revelation, as it was called, Revelations, and part 1 and part 2, which is basically season 1, season 2. And listen, I'm going to this. I'm not really a He-Man fan. I think I'd seen clips of the original episodes online. Most of them have been used for comedic purposes anyway.
Oh yeah,
because it's cheap animation. But it's a cultural phenomenon. I get that. And I had seen the Dolph Lundgren. Actually, I had watched the He-Man 2002 series back in the day.
Oh yeah,
and I really liked that. That was great. I thought that was pretty cool. And then it got canceled because no one's watching it, which is too bad. I think only last 2 seasons. But I watched this and I really liked it. I thought it was fun. I agree with you, man. I like that they gave a lot of the supporting tertiary characters something to do. We got to learn. They're not just there to look cool. They're just not there to sell action figures. They actually, the writers and Kevin Smith or whoever, they actually gave them personalities. They actually gave them arcs. And I liked that. I liked what they did with Evil Lynn. I liked, Skeletor, how pathetic, how they finally call him out. It's like, you just love He-Man. That's why. You're so incompetent and you can't get over your obsession. You could literally win, which I thought was cool. He can win at any time. And it's like, no, because he's so flawed. And I love that. I think that's funny. And you're right. I think Mark Hamill, is he doing his Joker, a modified Joker voice? Yep, but
very much.
It works for Skeletor. I thought it was great. Yeah, with Teela, I mean, I like that they did more of Teela. It's funny because I feel like they gave her a lot to do in the first part, and the second part, it was a little weaker. So, I don't know. Overall, but I'm still like, they made her a character, which she's not in the original series. Barely in one. So, at least they tried.
They did, and I think my only real complaint with Teela overall was just, I know what they were trying to do. I think in the grander scheme of things for it, and they want to set up some new lore for things. I just think the execution for it just doesn't quite work for some of it. Like her big reason why she leaves the castle in season 1 is like, it makes total sense why things happen the way they did, and you're running off like you're just kind of just upset. Like, okay, I guess. But the rest of the season I think works out much better. And then her arc in season 2. Again, I like the end result of what they did. I just think it, again, her choices, it seems much more selfish, I think, than versus like more self-sacrificing, like what Adam has done as being He-Man and what the rest of it of the folks were doing. Like they sacrificed and they gave up a lot, and Teela gets to have her cake and eat it too. Yeah.
I listen. It worked more than it didn't for me.
Yeah,
and I think that show became a victim of that certain demographic on those YouTube and social media that they perceive something and then they'll double down on and triple down and try to destroy it. And I watched, I'm like, you guys are lying. This is not what you keep saying. It's this thing. It's like, get over yourselves. And that's too bad because the show didn't deserve that vitriol. And again, I'm not speaking as a He-Man aficionado, but I don't think I have to be to enjoy the show. I liked it. I liked it. And it didn't deserve all that hate. And I think it sets up something really cool if they do a third season, which I hope they do. I hope they do, because they're gonna bring in another character. Like, cool. I want to see how they handle that guy.
I'm excited for that. Yeah. I think if I actually had any one real thing just to show like the effects that the community had on it was the second trailer, where it was designed to explicitly address anybody who's complaining about the first season. And it was almost like I like just Kevin Smith just walking up in front of your screen and pointing at He-Man like, "Are you fuckers happy now? Here he is.
Yeah,
stop it."
I wouldn't be surprised if that was done. Yeah,
that's exactly why it was done. It was just to shut people up, and it's like, come on. It's like, I get it, but at the same time, like, I think they could have just still like made a more subtle trailer instead, and I think it would have worked much better.
No, I agree with you. I would, give those people nothing because they'll latch their teeth into it and never let go.
No.
Person Mans, I saw you just came in here. Welcome. Happy New Year to you. Did you want to take a moment and talk about what your favorite animated show of the year was, of 2021 was?
Sorry, I was running late. I forgot you were doing this. But
no, it's no problem.
I don't watch a lot. The only three things I've watched that are animated are Arcane, which I assume you've already talked about, What If, and MODOK.
You know what? We haven't really mentioned. We have talked about Arcane, but if you want to take like a moment to talk about either MODOK or Marvel's What If, I mean, please feel free to. This is kind of like wrapping up in general. If anyone else had any other animated shows they wanted to bring up for a minute, but please feel free.
Or
if you need time, we can move on and just ask someone else if that's fine.
I think that's all I have to say.
No, it's okay. No. I will. Listen. I'll mention Marvel's What If. I enjoyed it. I think it. Some of the episodes didn't always hit for me. But like the Doctor Strange episode, I thought was great with the Supreme Strange, as he was called, absorbing all those different monsters to make himself more powerful to save the woman he loves. Love that. I love the last several episodes where they dealt with What If Ultron won, kind of almost, I think, redeeming Ultron to a degree, because I thought he wasn't really handled that well in the MCU proper. So, but I really liked it. I mean, not every episode was great, but I felt it was really cool. It was a cool setup for things in the future, which I think we will see in a second season and in live action. And I haven't seen MODOK, but it looked funny. But did anyone have anything else to want to bring up in regards to those shows, or was there something else that someone wanted to mention?
I wanted to bring up something with He-Man.
Please.
I watched the first part of Masters Universe, but I also watched the CGI one they did. And I really liked that one. It was sort of like the 2012 Ninja Turtles reboot, where they make some really interesting changes to the lore that I really like. So it stars a PS4 Spider-Man. Yuri Lowenthal?
Yep.
As He-Man, and in this version, he isn't the prince. He's raised by Cringer in the jungle.
Interesting.
And they kind of change his whole origin, and they do. And Skeletor is played by Ben Diskin, who's like a very known voice actor, and he does it's actually his uncle in this version. I don't know.
Okay. I think that is like Ken. Isn't Skeletor the uncle of He-Man? He's family though, right? I'm pretty sure he's family. But anyway, yeah.
And they do some pretty interesting, where instead of He-Man transforming, all of the other characters also kind of transform and become like masters of the universe. And they also even do that for the villains. Like Beastman's transformation is actually one of he's like this like really tiny guy who rips open who turns to stone, rips open his chest and turns into Beastman.
Jesus.
It's like really, it's like surprising, and it's CGI, which I get it, but I really enjoyed just and Orko's like a robot instead of like he's a security robot who thinks he's like a magical wizard who's played by Tom. And it's like, I like all these changes. I like all, they're taking like the I only kind of watched the 2000. I never really grew up to like He-Man with Vanny, but I'm like, I wonder how, I really like this. I like how it's like kind of taking the world of He-Man and like making some pretty cool changes to it. And like, it ends off in a pretty cool place where it's like, I want to see what happens in the like next season of the show. It's a little bit more of like where it isn't like She-Ra, where that's like such a big change from the original. So it's like, there's enough change. It's kind of like the 2002 one where it's like, they change enough stuff around. They change like a lot more around, but it's still pretty an interesting show. And I'm like, I had fun. I'm like, I watched it like in a day, and I'm like, I just generally enjoyed it.
I knew about that show, but I didn't hear that much about it. Let me ask you something. What was the perception to that show when it came out? Because it changes so much. Seemingly changes so much. Were people mad, or were they?
I don't think people really cared, because the Kevin Smith one seemed to block it. But I'm like, this is a pretty good show if people just kind of want like a more streamlined He-Man, where it's more about He-Man, but it does still give other the guy who plays Pit is like Man of Arms. The voice of Sonic, I think, is Trapjaw.
Oh, Roger Craig Smith, I think.
Yeah. And they do some, and they make Skeletor, but they still they keep to the things like Skeletor. He's insane. He's a quack, but he's still evil and crazy.
Sure. That's cool. I knew of the show, but I hadn't heard much about it. And I think you're right. Just got overshadowed by the Kevin Smith. But it looks like it's getting another season. if they let stuff off. So yeah, hopefully, yeah, that's cool. See, you get all these different versions of He-Man. Everyone gets something that they want. You get so mad about everything. But that's cool. No, thank you for mentioning that. I like that. Did anyone else want to bring up another animated show before we wrap up? I know like I said, there was a lot of stuff this year, but if anyone has any last minute thoughts, please do so.
Just real quick, I wanted to just talk about Young Justice.
Please.
Yeah, it hasn't finished the season yet. It just came out with an episode this week, but Young Justice has been one of those shows, I think, that for DC, it's doing something kind of similar to what the MCU does, and just where it's establishing its own world building, and over the years, it's branched out into a lot of different things. And one thing that I've always appreciated about the show is that they made every villain a threat and every hero have like their own thing. And just the way that they show like sidekicks are actually useful over the years has been good. And this season they're focusing a lot on the mental issues of being a hero, which kind of parallels what's been going on with the Marvel shows with Loki and WandaVision and Falcon and the Winter Soldier and all that, and Hawkeye. But there's a lot of PTSD going on in the show, and just the fact that they're showing, with some cases, in this season, the cases Beast Boy, who's been through so much, they're showing him, go through depression. And,
went through so much last season, which was like 2 years ago.
Yeah, but he's still going through it in season 4. So, just honestly, a show worth checking out. It's been going kind of in arcs where each is connected in a certain type of way, but so far, just the way they're handling it, I'd have to say is top notch.
I remember back, this show came out in 2010 originally on Cartoon Network.
Yeah.
It's had a weird life. It's had a very weird life.
Yes.
And this is made by Greg Weisman and his people. Greg Weisman, who previously did Spectacular Spider-Man, which got canceled before its time. He did Gargoyles, which got canceled before its time. And that's just kind of been that guy's history.
He hasn't got a break.
Yeah. Yeah. And I like the first season a lot, and I like the second season a lot. And I watched the third season, and I don't remember sporadic memories with that one. I remember liking it, but I have noticed, and I'm glad you brought it up, because I can appreciate them showcasing these heroes going through things that any ordinary person goes through, like depression, the loss of a loved one. Like, that's what makes them real. It's just that I feel like even the last season and this one, that seems to be what they're all focusing on. And it almost like something held, but with Superboy and Miss Martian. And I'm like, all right, there's only, and that ends, and that arc with them. I'm like, I can only take so much after a while. I'm like, Jesus Christ, can no one be happy? Can no one be happy? And it was kind of one of those things. It's like, it's not saying that it's not well handled or it wasn't, it's that doesn't, not like it never happens. It's just like, I don't know if I can take just much more of this because of how sad things get.
I had to put it down after that point. I'm like, I'm going to wait for the rest of the show to come out, because I'm like, that was too much.
Yeah, I even want to say to what it is, because I want everyone to experience it, because I think it's a good show. I think it's well animated show. I think it's well voice acted. I like Greg Weisman's work. I think he's got fucked over a lot throughout his career. And so I always feel free to support him and, definitely give him props and the people that work with him. But it's one of those shows that I'm just kind of like, I mean, we were talking about earlier, I forgot who it meant, I think it was Emily, that we were talking about like everything's bloody and depressing and dark. And it's like, yeah, a lot of that is. And I think Young Justice is one of those things. For what a reason for me. I don't know. Yeah. Maybe because it started off being something, it's turning into something, and it hurts seeing these characters hurt. But but those who like it, like yourself, Stefan, I totally understand. I get it.
Stefan, I actually have
where you're coming from on that, because it does get dark, and you did grow to love these characters. You got to know them, and then you see them going through. You don't only see characters get killed; you see them going through heartache, and it truly does feel like, oh shit, it's too real.
Yeah, it is. It is right there with you. Austin, did you have something you want to say?
I actually had a question for Dr. Kendry. Have you watched all of the what is current. You said you watched all of it, right?
Yes.
Kind of on the last season where it ended off with the Mark. Have they brought up the Markov stuff again? This season?
Yeah, so that's been brought up, though it hasn't been the focus. But the way it kind of the way it affects characters is brought up again, so it does focus more into that darkness as well. But
and
they haven't delved like super specifically into it.
They keep teasing us about one character, well, two characters, and have they done anything with them? With their Batman related characters, I'll say Batman family. Really, have they got them in yet?
Yeah.
Oh, they have. Okay.
Yeah, it's been focused on a little bit, but no, it hasn't been fleshed out yet. They work really into kind of the origin of two characters, and how they get into Barbara Gordon and how she became Oracle.
Oh,
so,
okay, that's interesting.
I've heard I've heard that they've changed that up.
They do, and I personally like the change.
Yeah. No, I'm curious. Like I'm coming to that point where it's like, okay, you don't have to be exact. Just if you want to do your own thing, I'm all for that. See something
as
new.
Long as it makes sense.
As long as it makes sense, exactly. Right there with it. As long as it makes sense. I'm sure it's better than the Killing Joke adaptation.
Oh God.
most.
I just have to bring that
up. I'm sorry. I couldn't help it. But yeah, does anyone else have another animated show they wanted to bring up before we wrap up here? This is great. I love that we covered a lot of ground, a lot of variety today. It was awesome.
I just wanted to bring up I'll try to be fast, but I wanted to bring up two things, two animes.
Please.
One that I really liked, another one that I really liked that came out this year was Jobless Reincarnation. I think it's on Hulu. If you wanted to check it out, basically the reason I wanted to bring it up is because this anime changed my opinion on the isekai genre, which is basically where the protagonists, they die horrifically and they get transported to like a fantasy world. And usually in this world, they're like god tier. But what makes this one different is that the protagonist is, there's no other way to put it, is a loser. We find out that instead of going to a funeral for a loved one, he stays at home and just like watches porn, so like he has nothing going on in his life and he dies. And when you're introduced to him, he's still like that loser character, but he grows throughout the series, and eventually he is going to become like that god tier character, like in most isekais, but it's gradual. And also there was this moment that I really liked where where for the first time he realized like, oh shit, like this is a second chance. Like I'm getting a second chance, and I don't want to fuck this up, which is something you don't see, that I haven't seen in other isekais. And so that's why I'm like, this is like this. Like I can't say that I don't like isekais anymore. I can say like, okay, there's at least one that I can really like get like I can root for and I can watch, and feel like this is the one that I like. But the other thing that I want to bring up is one of my like worst animes of this year, or maybe one of my most disappointing, and that has to be The Promised Neverland season 2.
I keep hearing that.
Yeah.
I had to bring it up. It's oh man, I love The Promised Neverland season 1. Absolutely love it. First episode is great. Love the character of Mom. She, as villain wise, I think she's on that tier of like Frieza, where I'm like, she's one of my favorites. Where she's one of my favorites.
Yeah.
And season 2 just drops the ball in every way. I just have no interest in any of the characters who I should care about. Characters return, and it's like, oh, how did you come back? Let's just have a whole episode of this character just talking about what they did, rather than just showing what they did, which would have been so much more cooler than what they did. And then the last episode, they pretty much just said fuck it, because they just show like a slideshow of all these things that the characters went through that we could have seen. It's like, oh, you want to see that? Too bad, you're not going to see it. And they have drawings of the characters, of the main characters, and they don't even take the time to fill in the faces of the like extras in the background or on the side. It's just like faceless, like pedestrians. It was it was
Yep.
horrible. So I don't even so it's kind of like the Matrix or whatever else, like where it's like we had the Matrix. Don't forget about the don't watch the sequels. We have season 1 of The Promised Neverland.
Gotcha.
Do not watch or read the manga. Do that instead. Don't watch season 2.
I heard the manga wasn't good. Sorry.
No, it's fine. No. If you have anything else you want to say, Austin, please.
Actually, well, I actually read the manga of I actually do read the manga of the jobless reincarnation. That show really does throws you for a loop at a certain point about like, well, this just happened. But I enjoy it. It is pretty fun. And very emotional.
It is very emotional, and like, and it shows that characters aren't perfect. Like there's like you. I won't spoil it, but there's like one character who you're like, oh, like this guy is kind of cool, but then you realize like he's an asshole too. Characters feel like real in this world. They don't feel like they're just like superheroes or anything that.
Yeah, I mean, I need to watch it, but there is the main character does pull some master notes where it's like, yeah, I'm doing this, but it's funny, I'm doing something dirty, but it's it's comical, but I'm like, man, don't do that.
Yeah, no, that did happen in one of the episodes, and it was very controversial, and none of I don't know about everybody, but I know for myself, I wasn't like feeling it. I was like, oh, this is a little awkward, especially in this time, like
especially
like, that came out in like what the 80s or 90s.
The 80s.
So, yeah, so
late 80s.
Yeah, I agree with you.
Yeah, the whole concept of a 40 or 30-year-old man who's like way too into anime and porn and stuff, like trapped in the body of a baby. Like they definitely, like, he does get attracted to little girls. So just like that is something that you have to put out there if you give your recommendation, because you're right. The writing, I think, is pretty good, and the character development definitely great. But I try to get my younger sister into it. She's 19, and she looks at me and she was like, "Why the fuck is this baby perving on? Is this 40-year-old man perving on this little girl?" And I was like, "Nope, that's a great point."
Okay.
Yeah, no, I agree. He's definitely like I was saying, he's not like the best character. I think he does go through growth. That's what's odd is because like when that moment happens, it happens after the part where he's like, oh, I need to change my life. Like I need to take.
Right.
I can't take this second life for granted. And then he does something as shitty as that. So yeah, that part was not cool.
I'll say this: it gets better. It gets better as he gets older and mature, like actual people,
Shows growth.
But
shows growth. That's good. No, I know. I like this. I like this conversation. This is good, especially when I'm like, I don't know anything about these things. So here you guys go back and forth. That's awesome. That's why I love doing this.
I'm so lost.
But that's cool. I like that. I don't mind it having it go off because someone does. No, apologize. Don't apologize. No, I like that. I like that. I think that's fun. If anything, it just makes me realize that we got to have episodes about anime as well. Maybe some anime that people might be unfamiliar with, like what you guys are talking about right now. I'm unfamiliar with it. I think that's cool. But no. The one thing I do want to say with Promised Neverland, just very quickly, I've seen the first several episodes. I guess the first season, 3 or 4, and I really liked it. I was like, oh, that first episode, then ending. It's like, oh my god, and I thought that was really cool. So yeah, to hear, because I heard about how bad season 2 is, and it's like, oh no, that's too bad. Because I know some people love the first season. I was liking it a lot. So that'll be one of those things. I'll eventually watch the first season, and maybe I'll just that'll be it. I won't even expose myself to season 2.
They also did a live action movie for it, which
they did?
I didn't hear the best things about it.
Interesting. I mean, I can see it being a movie, definitely. I mean, I think that could work.
My toe! Sorry, my dog bit me.
No, it's okay. It's okay. Hope your toe's okay.
God damn it.
But I think we can go ahead and we can call it here. I think this was great. Like, I appreciate that we just had a variety. So don't feel bad about talking about the animes, even though I might not know what you're saying. I think that's cool. So never apologize. I think that was a really cool conversation between you guys. So thank you for that. But this is wrapping up for this first episode. This is the first episode of Discourse for the year 2022, which I think was really fun, talking about our favorite animated shows of 2021. We're going to keep doing this, I think, for the next several weeks in the January. I think maybe next week we can. I'll let you guys vote. I'll put up a poll if you want to do our favorite films or our favorite video games, whichever you would care to discuss
something
first.
About music.
We'll definitely going to do. We'll definitely be doing music centric shows as well, both here on Discourse and also on Twitch. One of those things I will be doing is definitely a kind of like a bi-weekly music show where I'll be talking about an album. I'll be able to play short samples on Twitch and have some nice discussions. And you guys will be able to recommend stuff from me. You guys will be given priority when it comes to recommending. You can either be songs as well. It doesn't even have to necessarily be albums. I'll be explaining a lot of this in more detail on Monday. But yeah, I am doing a music-centric show, and you guys one of your benefits will be to suggest songs for me to listen to and to review, and we can discuss, which I think it would be really, really fun. And we'll be doing that both probably, definitely here on Discourse occasionally, but most of the time on the Twitch channel. But before I wrap up, again, just Happy New Year to everyone here. Happy New Year to all of our listeners, to a great 2022. Let's start off with, I think we're starting off on a very nice note. So thank you, Deadpool. Thank you, Emily. Thank you, Osnick. Thank you, Stefan. Thank you, Kazfe. Thank you, M. Xavier. Thank you, Van. I think we also had Persiman's up here for a bit. Thank you. And guys, see you next time. Bye. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Yay. We did it.
Happy New Year.
Happy New Year indeed to a better 2022.